Yeah, bye. All right, XOXO. Got a girl. Audra at Home is filmed in front of a live Pitbull audience. Good morrow and merry meet. My name is Audra and you are in for a treat. All right, today is another palette chat and I'm going to be talking about problematic, toxic creators. And if you want to see how I got this look, which no, I'm not wearing a lip and that is on purpose because I haven't figured out what I'm going to do. I wanted to lay down for a little bit. It is what it is. So let's move on to past me putting this look together. So the first point I want to hit is like there is a definite difference between making a mistake and either course correcting and apologizing or just simply course correcting, because as some of you may know, I have some very complicated feelings on apologies. I feel like these days a YouTube apology or any influencer apology is just, it's not met very well. It's met with a lot of criticism. And with that being the case, I can kind of understand. I'll talk about it in another video in some more detail. But there is a distinct difference between someone making a mistake and course correcting and or apologizing and moving on, and consistently being, you know, an issue and doing things that cause issue. There is a fucking difference. And when we use terms like problematic to describe someone, it doesn't make sense. If somebody made a mistake 5 years ago and has since course corrected and hasn't made that same mistake or hasn't done that same thing, are they problematic? Because what I feel like is happening now is that we are literally using the term problematic as a cover for I don't like them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like them, so I'm gonna call them problematic. Those are not the same things. Simply disliking someone isn't the same as that person actually being problematic. Like, we can't just be sitting in these streets calling people problematic when they are not. Like, we can't, that can't be the game that we're playing. Of course, I'm using purple again. I'll bring you in closer. And so we can't keep playing this game of, well, I don't like them, so they are problematic. And they did this one thing. Like, when you see someone say that someone is problematic, 9 times out of 10, there's like 1 or 2 things they've done over years. And then the rest of it is a list of personality traits that they dislike about this person. Like, baby, that's not problematic. That's not the same. And the thing is, we keep using this term.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
And it doesn't apply. Not liking someone doesn't make them problematic. Not enjoying their content anymore doesn't make them problematic. The fact that they said or did something a year or 2 ago and have since, you know, gone on to correct that behavior, they're not problematic. There is a distinct difference between making mistakes and being problematic. For me, if I were going to say that I thought a creator was problematic, I would say Nikita Dragun is problematic, in my opinion. You don't have to have the same one. I'm not sure how she skates by every time. She does some fucked up ass shit, but she does. And I honestly think that that is rooted in misogyny because of her passing abilities. So people just let her go. That's my opinion. It could be wrong, you know what I mean? But I feel like what happens is, to me, she is constantly and consistently saying and doing things that are quote unquote provocative to keep her name in the papers, as it were. And, you know, to keep people thinking about her. And it's like, girl, you could use your power doing other things. And the thing about that is, I honestly think aside from the misogyny keeping her okay, it's also the rampant transphobia that keeps her okay, because every time she does or says something fucked up, which is relatively often, people use that as an opportunity to misgender her and be extremely transphobic towards her. And they will veil that with, well, she said or did blah, so she doesn't deserve this. And I'm like, baby, you don't get to determine someone's gender just because they fucked up. You know, that's a subject for another day, but I'm just saying, you don't get to determine someone's gender because they fucked up. Like, she's still she is still her. We're not going to change it and misgender her because she's done something terrible. That is actually just as bad, if not worse, than what she did, which is why I think she's just able to like, la, 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 bye. She's someone who I would say, like, yes, I would agree that she is problematic. She goes out of her way regularly to do and say things that she knows will be provocative and will cause issue. She knows that. She's not stupid. She knows exactly what she's doing. And I feel like people don't get it. But a creator who did or said something a while back or a year ago, even if they make a mistake every year, that doesn't make them problematic. That makes them human. Again, and I don't know when this is going up, and I say that like literally every video because I have no idea what order I decide to edit things in. It's usually just like, it depends on the day and what time I get off work. If it's a longer video, it's gonna be something that I edit on a day I get off earlier. If it's a shorter video, it's gonna be on a day when I get off later. Like, that's how it is. But the reality that we're just not even allowing people to make mistakes and using their mistakes as a cover for outgrowing their content is just, it's so stupid. If you outgrow somebody's content, it's fine. Unsubscribe and move on. You don't have to start an Audra hate campaign. You know what I mean? Like, if you outgrow my content or you just don't like my content, you don't have to start a hate campaign against me. You don't have to tell everybody what a piece of shit I am and then like list out all of my quote unquote problematic behaviors, which are really just things about me as a person you don't like, and that one time I said or did something that was problematic or had some issue. That's not the same. And if everybody is quote unquote problematic, then nobody is problematic. You're taking the actual like punch out of the game. Like, you're literally taking the word and having it have no meaning. If we keep calling like every creator, just being like, oh, they're problematic because a year ago they did or said this. They're problematic because they did, like, that's not the same. Making a mistake is not problematic. You know what I mean? Now, making the same mistake repeatedly and then like not learning, maybe that could be, you know, considered problematic. But it could also mean that it took a while to learn. Like, I feel like we don't even give people the opportunity and grace to be able to learn. We're so busy ready to cancel and attack that we don't really let that person learn what it is that they've done that we don't like. We don't give them any opportunities. We mostly just tell them how fucking wrong they are, what a giant piece of shit they are, and then we go through the list of every time that they ever made a mistake, and we feel justified in doing it. Like, oh, here is a list of all the times that this person fucked up. And, you know, keep your list, do what you will. I'm not the boss of you. But there's a level of that where it's just like, why are we keeping tabs on literally every mistake? I mean, that kind of, in some ways, makes, I'm gonna say it, makes me feel a little like Jeffree Star-ish, like I'm keeping tabs on every time somebody fucks up so that I can like use it against them at some later date and time. Gross. Ooh, I didn't like that I said that out loud, but here we are. But I feel like if we don't stop doing that, like, this is why nobody's going to want to like continue in this vein. Because there is a level that goes on where you're just like, it literally doesn't matter what it is that I do or what it is that I say. People are going to find issue with it, which, yeah, they are. But also, we don't get to just keep playing this like weird game with people where we're denouncing them at every opportunity.
Peace. Peace. I hate the word. As I hate hell, all Montagues.
And it feels like they can't even have, like, get better. Like, calling someone problematic and then like leaving it there, how do they change that for you? And if they don't, they don't, right? That's fine. If they can't change that for you, then that's fine. That makes sense for you, and that's okay. But for everybody else, and I've said this before, there's a certain amount of like rehashing the things that people have done that I will be like, yeah, that makes sense, because like they keep doing this and they haven't made any attempts to change who they are as a person. They just, you know, do. And also it depends on what was done. If it's like the icks and the isms and they're consistently currently doing that, i.e., you know, Nikita Dragun constantly race baiting, you know, I get that, you know what I mean? I get being like, okay, here's all the times that they've done this thing. But if somebody's just like stepped off in it, they put their foot in their mouth on more than one occasion, I just don't consider them problematic. I feel like we're calling people problematic for making mistakes, and then when does it end? When do we stop? When are they no longer problematic? And how long are we going to share and reshare that this person did this thing? And it's like, well, they didn't apologize the way I wanted them to, which fair, you know what I mean? If you didn't like their apology or their lack thereof, it's fair for you to not like them. But then you have to start asking yourself, is it actually fair for me to keep spreading this information around the internet? Like, those were my feelings about this person. That's how I felt about what they did. Is it actually fair for me to constantly and consistently spread this information about this person as if like that is their facts and their truths? Like, is it fair that every time their name comes up that I bring up this shit that they did last year and they have not done since? Like, is it fair for me to do that? Because I feel like in our real lives, if we were keeping tabs on everyone in our lives like this, like, are there people who I'm like, I don't fucking forget? Yes, there are people who do that. But also, I kind of tried to make an effort to not constantly be dragging someone in the mud. Because one, that speaks poorly of my character. That's just how I feel about it. You don't have to feel that way. But for me, I feel like it does speak poorly of my character if every time, you know, a creator is mentioned, I consistently have to tell the life story of what a piece of shit they are. Like, it's one thing if somebody asks, but it's unsolicited that people are getting this information. Yo, this palette's kind of doing something to my nether regions. We gonna move on. But it really feels on like some levels where it's just, when does this person, when are they able to get out of the doghouse of problematic creator? When do we decide that? Because if we're gonna keep bringing up a thing that somebody did 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and like they haven't done it since, okay. Even if they made a mistake and they didn't apologize the way you wanted them to, like, fine, just don't watch them. You know what I mean? It's super easy. Don't watch them. And maybe it's time that we just like start asking ourselves what we want from creators if they have this kind of behavior. Like, what is it that we want from them? How do we want them to fix it? Because even if we were to say it and they did that, we would still find fault with it. So like, problematic as a term, using it so broadly every time someone makes a mistake, bothersome. We need to stop doing it. It's getting on my nerves. Please stop calling everybody fucking problematic. Again, if everybody's problematic, then no one's problematic. The word has lost all of its meaning, and the idea, just like cancel, has lost its meaning, right? Right. Let me wet my sponge. I'll be right back. And the same goes for the term toxic. We will use this term regularly, and I don't feel like we're using it right. I feel like we're using it randomly without really any thought to what is toxic. You know what I mean? Like, for me, yes, I'm gonna name names in this video because that's who the fuck I feel like being today. But for me, I find, you know, Jeffree Star to be an incredibly toxic person. Not just because of icks and isms, but also because of the way in which, you know, Jeffree weaponizes everything. You know what I mean? Like, his friendship, from what I can see and allegedly, looks like it's very transactional. And if you don't, bow down to the rules of his transactional friendship, you will find yourself in, a plethora of shit. I just wanted to say it that way. I find that behavior very toxic. Like, every time something happens, the other reason I think that he is toxic is because a good chunk of really, really fucked up stuff that's happened in the beauty community, he's been at the center of it, and it's not gotten better. I won't remark on the James Charles because honestly, I quit following that a very long time ago. I just cannot. It does not, one, sit well with my spirit, but two, it's not good for my mental health to follow that. So I'm not going to, and that's why I don't talk about it. I feel like there is a very distinct way in which when I see how everything is handled with the likes of Jeffree Star, it feels like every time something happens, he quote unquote has something on these people. You know what I mean? Like, they can't just expose him without exposing themselves. And that is honestly where I think that someone is extraordinarily toxic. It's like, if it reminds me a lot of, this is gonna sound so weird, but I am who I am as a person, Hostel, the movie Hostel. And like the whole thing about being a part of your murdering humans club is that you have to murder a human, and you also have to get the murder humans tattoo, right? Because the point is that you can't expose them without you yourself being exposed. Obviously, I'm not saying that he has a murder hotel, but I'm just saying that's what it reminds me of. Like, the idea that if you are in a situation, everybody has to take the same risks, basically. So that's somebody that I would consider toxic, because any and all of their moves are very much about what you can do for them. And it feels like, allegedly, that he is in fact recording every conversation, keeping every communication. And so then that way you can't tell. You know what I mean? If he gets busted for saying the N-word, haha, so too will you. He's got you by the shorts and curlies and whatever else they are. That is what I would consider toxic. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is toxic behavior. Somebody simply just like being an asshole isn't toxic behavior to me. Somebody simply being an asshole, that's not fucking toxic to me. Like, just being a piece of shit, not toxic. It's the same way that I feel about whether or not somebody is problematic. Like, not liking them and them simply like being an asshole, that's not enough for me to be like, yep, they're problematic. I feel like we just keep throwing this term out, and then we just kind of don't care whether or not it applies to them. And the thing is, we're throwing it out on creators that, in my opinion, a lot of them don't necessarily deserve that. Being called toxic and being called these things, like, I don't feel like they literally deserve to be called, a toxic person. Like, I don't feel like that's fair. I feel like we've gone so far in using these terms that we really don't think about like what they actually mean, right? We're not thinking about like what toxic means, what toxicity is. We're not thinking about what problematic is. Like, that's why the attic is there, because it's emblematic of it being a consistent issue. You know what I mean? Like, it is emblematic of it being a very consistent, regular issue and problem that we are having with this person. Calling someone toxic because they made a mistake doesn't, one, help that person to not want to make the mistake again. So we have that, not saying it's our responsibility, but it doesn't help. But it also doesn't help them in like feeling comfortable and confident with correcting their mistake. You know what I mean? Like, how do you correct said mistake if everybody's already calling you problematic and toxic? How do you actually apologize if it doesn't matter anyway because you've already been labeled? You're like, I said I was sorry and I really don't intend to continue this behavior. But it's too late. Everybody now thinks I'm problematic and toxic. I can't do anything about that. I just have to move forward at this point. Like, what exactly can I do or say that's gonna change anyone's feelings about what I've done? Nothing. Right? Like, it becomes like a zero-sum game. If you apologize, you're just doing it because you got in trouble. And then if you don't apologize, you don't care. If you tell people how you have learned and how you're growing and changing from this whole thing, you're grandstanding and you are virtue signaling. Do you see how we get ourselves into the situation? How are they toxic, and then how can they fix being toxic? Like, they can't. There's no way for them to positively impact or fix this in a way that's going to satisfy everyone. And then the question remains, once someone has been labeled as quote unquote toxic or problematic, how are they unlabeled that? Like, what is it that they do or don't do that makes us, the viewing public, feel like they have actually learned? Because the thing is, you can make the same mistake twice. I mean, the thing about making mistakes is that unfortunately, we don't just learn from our successes. We also have to learn from our failures. Like, it would be really awesome and nice if the only way that you learned was through success, but like, that's not realistic. We do learn from like the mistakes that we make. Like, all of us have learned at some point or another. Totino's pizza rolls, you know what I'm talking about? You just pop it in your mouth right from the microwave. We all know, right? We know that you're gonna put it in your mouth and you're going, and you're going to set the roof of your mouth on fire, and you're gonna have that little bit of skin that ends up like hanging down, and you keep worrying until you peel it off. Yeah, that was a pretty intense reference. And that is an example of how we will continue to make the same mistake over and over again. Do you know why? Because in our minds, that mistake is worth it. Like, we know what it's gonna do, but we still do it. So the thing is, when it comes to YouTube and content creators, when are we gonna say like, okay, that's enough? Or when we say, I mean, I'm not still mad at them for X, right? Editing Audra here. What I'm getting at is we have a template already for callouts. We understand what we're supposed to do. We have a playbook there. We know if somebody has done something, we hold them accountable. We know what to do there. We have a playbook for what we do when we are trying to make sure that they hopefully change their behavior. We understand that. We currently don't have a playbook for allowing someone to come back. Because most of the time at this point, creators have come back whether we wanted them to or not, and people just quietly start watching them. So we don't have a playbook or a template for welcoming a creator back into the fold. All right, I gotta go. It's 5:40 in the morning. Genuinely, I do think that they made a mistake, and I'm not gonna continue, quote unquote, punishing them for said mistake. Like, it's time to let them out of the doghouse. Like, it's time to let them live their best life. And again, if you've outgrown the creator, that's fine. You are free to leave their space, never to return. But if you are screaming from the rooftops at every opportunity about the mistakes that they made a long time ago, even if you're like, well, they never apologized, you know, it is what it is. These days, apologizing doesn't absolve the crime, unfortunately. And it, in a lot of ways, only starts to create more attention on when you're gonna fuck up again, because, you know, as per usual, with every rise, there's someone waiting for you to fall and fail. That's the truth. I'm not saying it to be like, oh, poor me. I'm saying it because that's reality. With every rise of anyone, especially women and femmes, especially, but we're waiting for the fall. We're waiting, and baby, we are ready. We want, as fast as you came up, we're also very happy to tear you the fuck down and tell you how you're not humble anymore. And Jackie Ina put, you know, how you forgot where you came from. I don't think anybody's forgotten where they've come from. I don't think people, first of all, we're obsessed with humbling people, humbling Black women, but also humbling people. We are obsessed with this. And this is why I get annoyed about using these terms like over and over again, that someone's problematic or toxic, when they're literally a person who fucked up a couple of times, and then we're just like, yeah, they suck and they did this. And then we just like create a litany of all the things that we don't like about them. And anytime that they made a tiny mistake, or a big mistake, mistakes are mistakes, right? But every time somebody makes them, my question begins to come as, when do you let them off the hook? Because apparently, when we're using terms like toxic and problematic, it's, you know, we'll let them off the hook when they have begged sufficiently, or when they have lost enough subscribers as to feel humbled by us. We ridicule them online. We laugh about, you know, their pain, but like, this is actually literally someone's job. And I'm not saying like, oh, feel bad for them, but I'm also saying like, it's weird that we're celebrating even people I don't like. Listen, I gotta say it about me too. Even people I don't like. It is weird as fuck that I'm celebrating somebody like losing their job. Like, I don't like them, right? I don't like them. I don't think they're good people. But it's really weird that I'm celebrating them losing like the ability to live their lives. That's just a me thing. I don't know. Like, I do feel like that does something bad for my general karmic well-being. But now for me, there's obviously creators I'm not gonna forgive, and that's fine. But I've started to really watch how we behave, and I realize that like, even though I don't forgive them, and I'm never going to forgive them, I'm never gonna watch their content, I'm not like gonna actively seek them out either. I've also realized that there are creators that I just don't like, right? For whatever reason, our personalities don't jive. We don't share the same interests. But it legitimately doesn't mean that I get to drag them through the mud because I don't like them. Do I check on them occasionally just to hope that maybe they're doing terrible? Of course I do. I'm a monster. The reality is, it's really shitty for me to like go in this vein where I am apparently hoping for the worst for them. That I'm looking for them to have the worst, and I'm looking for them to make mistakes. And anything that they do is considered bad. Right? When you don't like somebody, any and everything that they do is considered bad. And I seriously and sincerely mean that. Like, think this through, because literally every time you don't like a creator, like when they breathe wrong, you're fucking pissed. And that's understandable. When you don't like somebody, you just have like a different level of disdain for them. And that's okay. Like, it really is. We're all gonna do what we gonna do, right? I ain't mad at it. I'm not gonna talk shit about you doing it because I do it too. That's just the way things are. That's just how we behave as human beings. You don't like somebody, you know, you just don't. Like, when they sneeze and you refuse to say bless you because you're like, you ain't blessed. Like, but like, we as a community have to start asking ourselves, you know, at what point do we absolve someone, or at least just move on from it? How long are we going to like list someone's history? Like, is it gonna be a thing where every time someone fucks up, right, we're gonna go through their entire history of things they've done wrong? Is that what we're gonna do? Is that the game that we're gonna play? Like, how are we gonna do this? And I ask this in all seriousness because there just comes a point where we have to recognize that we contribute to, like, as viewers, we contribute to how influencers do behave moving forward. Maybe I will go ahead and talk about it now. The apologies. One of the reasons, my opinion, is that you see people just like not doing it. Makes sense though, because there's an entire fucking script for how you're supposed to apologize now. We all know the script, right? You fuck up, then you put out like a statement that you're working on your fucking sensitivities to the fuck thing that you did wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then you, like, we all scream out for the quote unquote apology. We're like, bitch, you better apologize or we're not gonna watch your content. And then from that moment, the next thing that happens, said creator now has to, so the creator is gonna hop on camera wearing some form of a hoodie. They're going to look casual and comfortable, but like sad, you know? And then they're going to talk to you in a particular tone and being like, you know, I did this thing and I understand, like I thought I was blah, 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 blah. They're gonna go through the whole to-do. Then after they're done with their apology or whatever, making sure that they are neither too sad for themselves and that they're quote unquote addressing the people who were harmed by what they did. Once they've done all of that, right, then they skulk off. They stay off the internet for 2 weeks or a year. And then they come back and all is forgiven and we just move on. And so like, is an apology, if we're really at this point just forcing someone to follow script, is that an apology anymore? Is it? Because now to me, YouTube and all those apologies are becoming problematic. That's what I think is problematic. The way that we are starting to force people to apologize has become problematic because I only want people to apologize when they're genuinely fucking sorry. Like, I don't want you to say sorry because you have to. I want you to say sorry because you mean it. Like, if you had to take time and reflect and be like, I'm sorry, but right now, virtually everybody's like, I'm sorry, please don't cancel me. I want to continue making content and I can't do that if y'all are still mad. So like, that's my opinion, obviously. When and how do we, or do we ever apologize? Like, that was kind of a little bit of the point of my sinful haul, was to be like, when do we say that these brands are okay again, or we can use them? How long are we supposed to hate them? Because the reality is, like, they're here. People are obviously buying it. People who genuinely either just don't care about whatever issues that were going on with the brand, or I'm not sure, but they don't feel the same way. And this is a shit ton of rambling to say, we've got to start making some better decisions on who we're calling quote unquote problematic. We're sitting here calling everyone who makes any mistake both of these terms, and now they've lost, as I said before, all meaning. We have to start asking ourselves, like, does it make a difference if, like, what it is that they have done? Like, what is it that this creator has done that has garnered them that label? Like, are they constantly, and by constantly, I mean every couple of months we're watching this person step off in it. Is that what's happening? Because if that's not what is happening, then are they truly problematic at this point? Like, are they actually problematic, or are we just using that word instead of actually being able to give creators and content creators the space to be human beings and say, you know what, so-and-so made a mistake? Because here's the thing that I've also really paid attention to is, again, depending on who it is, if it's y'all's faves, it's, oh, they made a mistake. If it's who you don't like, it's they're problematic and they're toxic. Listen, we all hypocrites in one way or another, but you have to admit you a hypocrite. You know what I'm just saying? I'm just saying you have to admit that you are a hypocrite. Because I can admit that they're like, Laura Lee has probably changed and done all this shit. I don't care. I don't wish her any ill will or anything, but like, I just don't care. I'm like, yeah, I don't care what she's done. Like, it's, to me, for me, it was harmful enough that I was like, yeah, that's a negative. That's a no for me, dog, right? But I don't wish her any ill will. I don't get mad at people if they buy her products. Like, it's just like, for me, that's, it's not my content. It's not even my type of person. And that's fine, right? Like, I can have those choices just like you can. But I feel like there's a high level where we need to start asking some very real questions about how we continue forward. But that's gonna leave us in the situation of like, we're not gonna have any more content creators to follow if we can't decide on how we're actually going to move forward with them. Like, are they permanently on punishment? Y'all remember when you were like on punishment when you were a kid and they're like, you're on punishment, and you were like, nah, back. Like, are they just permanently on punishment? And I guess obviously that does depend on what they've done. You and I both know that, okay? But like, when, and here's the thing, if y'all looking for new creators, like, you're not looking very hard. Like, on literally any thread I see where people are like, I'm looking for a new, like a different unproblematic creator. I mean, you're looking for a robot because that doesn't exist, number one. But two, the comments there are literally always the same like 5 creators. It's the same 5 creators. That's like the one thread that I check consistently, is anytime somebody is like, huh. And the reason I did it wasn't because I was hoping I was mentioned, because I don't like to see my name like that. The reason I did it was because I was wondering if, when, any variation would come. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's like the literal same 5 creators over and over and over again. And so I'm like, so every 2 or 3 weeks when someone posts this being like, does anybody know any new creators? And the answer is no, it's the same ones. You should literally just tell them like, go check the other 17 threads about this. It's going to be the same 5. We're about to list the same 5 creators we've been listing. So like what you're really saying, I think what you're really saying when you're like non-problematic, what you're really saying is, I'm just looking for someone who aligns more with my values, which obviously, of course, that makes sense. But saying you're looking for someone non-problematic, it's like everybody is problematic in some way or another. You will find a reason for someone to be problematic anyway. Like those are like, as soon as you don't like somebody, you're gonna find that reason. That's all right. We're all we're all human beings. But one of the things I had to do was check myself and be like, do I actually think that this person is problematic and or toxic? Or do I just no longer jive with their content and I am looking for a reason to not watch them? And now I'm like, you know what? I am an adult. And as such, I can just unsubscribe. It's not like that creator is gonna like come out of the woodworks, right? Like, it's not like if I woke up and unsubscribed from like a larger creator, right? Like, they're not gonna come to my house. Like if I suddenly unsubscribed from Robert Welsh, it's not like he is going to hop on a plane and come directly to my home and be like, Audra, hi. I noticed you. Like, he's not gonna do that. He's not gonna come and say like, I noticed you unsubscribed. What was the deal? And like ask me for a fucking exit interview.
Like, oh my God.
That's not how that's gonna work. So I can literally unsubscribe with no consequences. Now, here's the thing. If you wanna just be like, does anybody else just feel like everybody likes this creator and you just don't? Then that's fine. Because I have several of those as well. There's a lot of creators where I'm like, everybody likes them, not my cup of tea. And, I discuss that amongst my friends. I don't really talk on forums because they make me extremely uncomfortable. 1, and 2, I feel like most people cannot have like a good conversation. I feel like a lot of those conversations end up being accusatory and mean. That's my opinion. That's like my experience with forums. But, that's the thing. Realize that creator isn't going to come to your house and shame you. They're not showing up being like, how fucking dare you?
Where do I begin?
How dare you unsubscribe? I mean, maybe that's what some people want. I don't know. People are weird. I can't determine that. And honestly, I guess a thing that I do that I, had to start being okay with doing was like asking myself a very specific question, which is like, when I say or do these things, like, how does it impact this person? You know what I mean? Like, when I say this shit, how does it impact them? Does it negatively impact them? And is it something that needs to be said out loud? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, no. Sometimes I don't even think it through all the way. Sometimes I just fuck it up and I'm like, oop, I said it anyway. Too late now, right? It's done. What's done is done. Sarah, what's said is said. Anyways, Labyrinth reference.
Well, love.
But those are my realities, right? And I feel like that's all of our realities. We have to realize that, like, we are actually, creators are human beings. They are people who live people lives and do people things. And if we're going to want to hold people, quote unquote, accountable, we have to also have like an end date or like whatever it is that's going to satisfy us. Satisfy the mob. But we have to determine what's going to satisfy us. And if the answer is nothing, then like, stop talking about them. Sorry, I had to do it one more time. Apologies. Just stop watching them. it's time. It's time to just stop watching them, move the fuck on, create like a special group where you just hate on that person and dunk on them, and it's private. You know what I mean? Create a special private group where you hate on and dunk on this creator irrationally, and you have a good time, to where like not only can they not see it, but like nobody can see it. Now, if they go out of their way to go look at their dunk session, that's on them. I never. It could not be me. That's just me saying, like, we have to have a way out. I feel like we go on this whole cancel and hold people accountable, but we don't really have any forgiveness when they come back. Now, obviously, you know, it does depend on what they've done, right? For me, like, there are situations where I'm like, wow, you chose that over another woman on the platform. Okay. But there are others where it's like, if you can clearly see that somebody's trying to do better without having to tell you what it is that they're doing better, because again, I say this all the time, we're not owed that information. We feel like we should be, but we're not. And if somebody's doing things behind the scenes to be a better person and be a better advocate and like not be a piece of shit, if we think that they were being a piece of shit, then like let them do that. If they are actually demonstrating better behaviors, fine. But tearing someone down because you don't like the way that they speak or you feel like they're smug, like, yo, that's a personality trait. That's not actually them being toxic or problematic. We can't just keep like people on the level of like problematic, toxic forever unless like they just never change. That's why I consider Nikita and Jeffree problematic and toxic, because they don't change. They keep doing this thing and they have zero intention of actually changing it. They'll pretend for a short period of time to like lull people back into safety, and then they just like wild the fuck out again, and it's the same thing like every time. And they're like, and some people apologize, some people don't. Nikita never apologizes. Jeffree apologizes, but he doesn't mean it. And that's the thing, right? That to me is what I consider problematic and toxic. The majority of the mistakes that people have made on this platform that I watch, they're mistakes. And I didn't feel like it was necessary to cancel them. So they were held accountable. I feel like that was more than enough. I don't feel like we need to just keep going. Let it go. And if you don't want to let it go, it's fine. But like also just stop attacking them for that. They're not problematic. They're a human being who made mistakes. All right, that's it. We're gonna come in close and look at whatever it is that I did here. We're gonna talk about this palette at a later date and time. I have a few palettes put together for a palette roundup, so it's gonna be a good time. Y'all, I look badass. I'm sorry, but like, okay, I am gonna say this. I absolutely love this palette so far. This is the best lethal formula for like deep skin. This is a fabulous lethal palette for deep skin, because look at me. Let's go. Now, as is my custom, I don't actually link all of my products in the description box below. I actually just link stores so you can generically shop the way that you want to shop. You don't have to feel like you're being sold to, but they are affiliate links. So I appreciate each and every one of you who use them, because I do use that money to put back into the channel. So yeah, this is a good time. I fucking look amazing, honestly. Like, hello. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and give it a big thumbs up, so then that way the algorithm goddess can do what she does best, which is push me further down into the algorithm so that I can continue to do what I do best, which is whatever the fuck I want to. And as usual, huge shout out to my patrons and spooky bays, yeah, without which I would not be able to keep the bats in the belfry and the spiders firmly ensconced in their webs. And to patron Yolanda, I apologize that our definitions of comedy aren't the same. I really thought that Your Next was a horror comedy. That's what's just me. To all of you who watch, like, share, and subscribe, I appreciate you as well. As usual, it costs $0 to be kind. It's so good for your soul, because really, I do have time to take them. Like, do I work a lot? Yes, but I'm out and about, so it makes soul snatching so much easier. All right, XOXO. Got a girl. Y'all, I am living in a literal nightmare, and here's why I'm living in this nightmare, okay? 2 thumbs up. Like, that's fucking stupid. There's 1 thumb, Audra. They can just 1 time. There is this cap, my House of Uni cap. Have I found the lipstick it goes with? I just want everybody to see my cute shirt. Like, fucking A, this shirt is the shit. This shirt is the tits. Okay, I'm done now. No, should it theoretically be right here? Yes, have I found it? I have not. Yo, come get this wing. It's calling, cause it's so good. Okay. As a delightful side note, I finally found the lipstick because I was thinking about it. Now I've made a mess and I have to fix it. We cannot continue until it's not a fucking nightmare over here. Okay. You know, and you have to start, ooh, damn. Sorry, I love the way that closes. I know everybody else doesn't, and that seems like so noisy, but like, it's the magnetic snap. It's the snap. I fucking love a good snap. Anyways,